Cheers, gang. Today's video, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite American wheat beer recipes. Hang tight. The show will begin soon. Okay, gang, cheers. I'm going to have a quick sip before we get going. It's a Friday here, so it's time to have a few pours. Today, though, we are going to quickly give you one of our top American wheat beer recipes. I'm also going to explain how you can modify it to make it your own, or if you want to design one from scratch, we'll get into a bit of that. First of all, for those of you who don't know me, it's Big Rob from MakeBeerEasy.com. On this channel, you're going to find things like this video, recipes, brewing tips. I do brew days. I'm going to cold crash a Vienna lager that I used ale yeast with a couple weeks ago, two weeks tomorrow. I'm going to be cold crashing that, so I'm going to be doing a video on that. So we do all these type of things. Go ahead and give me, and lost my train of thought there. Go ahead and give me a big thumbs up if you like this video. Really helps the channel out. So let's keep going. American wheat beer. What's the difference between it and a German? And I do have notes down here to make sure I cover all my points, because I make points that I want you guys to get. So I spend some effort into putting it together, and I don't memorize it all. I just write it here on my computer, and then I just bang through it for you. Okay, so there are some similarities, clearly. American wheat beer is more focused on the wheat malt character. It gives it more of a bready, grainy type flavor versus its German counterparts. Also, of course, American wheat beers use American style hops, which are going to give it the American, North American, New World, if you want to call it, hop characteristics that the hops grown over here part to the beer. So things like Citra, Mosaic, Galaxy, what have you, can be used in American hops. And then American wheat beer is also typically fermented with a cleaner yeast, which is going to present a less fruity ester and clove-like flavors to it. Characteristics. Let's get into characteristics of what should be in a wheat beer if you're going to make it on your own. Color range. SRM is usually around 3.5, somewhere around there. Appearance. This is not a wheat beer. I'm going to hold it up and show you. This is actually a lager. Appearance, it can be clear to hazy, depending on whether the beer is filtered or unfiltered, or how it's brewed, how you brew it, depending on how much hops you put in it. So it can range. It can range between clear to hazy. The head on the beer is usually as a moderate head, white and frothy. Aroma-wise, it can be described as being medium bread, grainy dough, cracker-like, with some sweetness is acceptable. Floral notes might be present, and of course, you might get some of the citrus notes, flavors, aroma that the American hops will provide for. Let's get right into it. Mouthfeel. Mouthfeel came up. The ABV is typically, it's moderate, so you're not getting a real alcohol taste. It can be anywhere from 4 to 5.5%, medium to high carbonation. Usually has a crisp, kind of refreshing finish to it. Okay, if you use flaked oats, it'll help with a slightly silky mouthfeel. So if you want to design your own recipe, okay. So I'm gonna give you the key parameters that need to go into design your own, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my recipe, and I'll also put a link under the video, guys, in the descriptions to my blog post for this exact recipe. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. OG of these beers are typically between 1.040 and 1.055. Final gravity is going to come in around 1.008 to 1.013. Bitterness are typically in the IBU range of 15 to 30. And as I said, alcohol by volume, I already covered that, between 4 to 5.5%. When you select your malts and hops, okay, so get your pen out if you're going to design your own. It's going to consist of wheat malt, of course, which is going to make up 30 to 70% of the grain bill. That's going to provide what we've talked about, the bready, doughy character. Remaining grains can include Pilsner malt, pale malt like two-row, Maris Otter. If you're going to do American, you want to do two-row, and other base malts that contribute to subtle, clean flavor. So that's what you're looking for. Adding small amounts of specialty grains, such as caramel malt or honey malt, can introduce some complexity. Honey malt's actually quite nice in these beers. It also has some sweetness without overpowering the wheat forward style. So you want to be careful when you're selecting your specialty grains that you're not overpowering the wheat component of the beer. Keep in mind that when brewing an all-grain American wheat beer, rice hulls can help you avoid a stuck mash, because wheat beers can, due to the high amount of wheat malt, can lean towards causing issues when it comes to the mash, as far as becoming a stuck mash. So rice hulls. A roll of hops. Wheat beers are not as hop forward as IPAs. Hops still play an essential role. Bitterness, I already said, 15 to 30. For hops, most common choices for American wheat beer would be Citra. I'd say, I don't have it written here, but I'd say Mosaic as well. Cascade, Amarillo. These are all popular ones for American wheat beers. Let me see, what else can I tell you? Yeast. For yeast, consider the yeast strain would be, you don't want ones like a German wheat beer, because you don't want to get the banana and clover notes. A clean American yeast, ale yeast strain is what's recommended. Something like a US 05 is just fine. It'll do a good job of keeping it clean, and it's going to complement the malts and the hops instead of overpowering them and changing the flavor. Okay, we already talked about all that. Okay, guys, the moment of truth. We're into my American wheat beer recipe. Okay, so this one is actually going to have 5 pounds of American 2-row, and then it's going to have 5 pounds of wheat malt, and then 0.5 pounds of rice hulls. That's it. Real simple recipe. Hops are going to have 0.75 ounces of Cascade we're going with, and this is at the 60 minutes. So I like the Cascade flavor. I'm not big into the Citra and stuff when I'm making an American wheat ale. A lot of American wheat beers will have the Citra flavors in it, and not that I don't love those hops. I do love those hops, just not in this type of beer for me. I prefer the Cascade. 60 minutes for bittering, 0.5 ounces of Amarillo. Drop that bad boy in at 15 minutes for flavor addition, and then aroma addition at 5 minutes. You're going to do another 0.5 of Amarillo, and of course, being the make beer easy guy that I am, I use the dry yeast. I use US 05, but Y yeast 1010, that's an American wheat yeast, is also very popular for this type of this beer. That's it, guys. I mean, instructions: the mash, do so 60 minutes at 165 degrees Fahrenheit or 74 degrees Celsius. Okay. Of course, we lauter and spurge, but that's just standard stuff. I'm just getting this on my blog post. Boils only 60 minutes. You're good there. Cool her down to, when the boil's done, cool her down to the yeast pitching temperature of at least under 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius. And then get her over to your fermenter. Common issues, we already kind of touched on this briefly, but there is a couple issues with these beers. You got to watch for. Number one is a stuck mash. Common problem with these beers, which occurs when the grain bed, if you don't know, becomes too compact, preventing the wort from flowing through it. Okay, and this is because of with this type of beer is because of the high use of wheat. So what you want to do, we've already talked about, is add the half-pound rice hulls, and this would be a 5-gallon batch that we were just talking about. Attenuation, another issue you might face when brewing these beers, is achieving proper attenuation, which refers to the percentage of sugars converted by the yeast during fermentation. Okay, sometimes you might find that your beer is not fully fermenting, leading to a final high gravity and sweeter taste than desired. To avoid this problem, ensure you're using the yeast strain, that's what I talked about, suitable for the wheat beers, US 05, Y yeast 1010. This is because they have a high attenuation rate, which is going to help you achieve the sweetness that you do wish for with this beer. When dealing with high attenuation, make sure that your fermentation temperature is within the recommended range. For the yeast strain you're using, that's important. I don't sweat it too bad, but I let her bump between. I actually, one time, one of my beers, I was probably sitting around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and I ended up having to go bad. So I've always now gone to the lower end. I know they say keep it between 68 to 70 degrees. I even now keep my beers around 65, and I feel a little more comfortable with that. And I've always had a good attenuation. So anyway, if you're running into that problem, make sure that you adjust your temperature as per what the yeast packet tells you that you should be fermenting at. Okay, and another key with these beers to get a complete fermentation is provide enough oxygen at the beginning. I have no problem with that. All I do is, if you ever seen my brew videos, I have my Brazil up high, I got my fermenter down low, and I just pour it in and add the yeast at the time, and all the bubbling and going on with the air. That always adds enough oxygen in my experience. So that's what I got, guys. Give the recipe a try. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think of these beers, what you think this recipe sounds like. If you go ahead and you do brew it, come back and let us know what you think. And if you ever get any questions, by all means, drop them down below. And be sure to subscribe wherever the button is here to this channel for more recipes, tips, brew days, that type of stuff. That's what I got, guys. Big Rob, well, he's gone.